Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivardhari Gopijana Balaba Girivardhari Yashoda Nandan Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandan Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivardhari Gopijana Balaba Girivardhari Yashoda Nandan Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandan Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Astacharya Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Astacharya Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se Goswami Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Gangamaya Ki Yamunamaya Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. So we're speaking on Srimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, which is entitled The Status Quo. And we're in chapter 21, which is the conversation between Manu and Kardama. And we're doing two verses today, one which doesn't have a purport, which is 26, and then one that does have a purport, which is 27. So I guess I'll just read the Sanskrit and translation to 26, and then we'll go on to chant 27 together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We don't usually translate that verse, but it means I bow down or offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. And Vasudeva is another name for Krishna, and it has at least two meanings. One is the son of Vasudeva. Krishna's father was called Vasudeva, and therefore he's called Vasudeva, meaning the son of Vasudeva. And also means the all-pervading feature of the Lord. So the idea is that all inspiration and abilities come from Krishna, so we acknowledge his presence before we speak, so we'll be able to speak better and the soul will be able to hear better by his mercy. So I'll read 26. Satya Vipravajarshir Mahishya Shadarupaya Ayashyati Didikshustvam Rasvo Dharma Kovidaha. Translation. So this is Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, who's appeared due to the austerities and devotion of Kardama Muni, the sage, and he's speaking to Kardama, telling what's going to happen in the future because he knows past, present, and future. Vedaham samatitani vadamanani charjana bhavishyami bhutani. Not from Veda Kastana. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I know everything that's happened in the past, all that's happening at present, everything that's yet to come. I know all living entities, but me no one knows. So Vishnu says, the day after tomorrow, O Brahmana, that celebrated emperor, who is expert in religious activities, will come here with his queen Shatarupa, wishing to see you. Okay, so chant 27 together. Atmajam asita pangim Vaya Shila Gunanvitam Mrigayantim Patim Dashyat Yanu Rupaya Te Prabhu. If you pronounce the last word and the third line as Dashyati, then it adds an extra syllable. But if you take that Y and you tack it onto the beginning in the first word, then it doesn't, and then the meter works better. Which is why I chanted it that way, for your information. Atmajamasita pangim Vaya Shila Gunanvitam Mrigayantim Patim Dashyat Yanu Rupaya Te Prabhu Atmajamastita pangim Vaya Shila Gunanvitam Vrigayantim Patim Dashyat Yanurupayate Prabhu. Please chant. Dasya Yanarupayate Prabhu Atmajamasita Pangim Bhagavantim Matim Dasya Anupayate Prabhu Atmajamasita Pangim Ayashila Gunanvitam Yatim Patim Dasya Yanurupayate Prabhu. Ladies? Atmajamasita Pangim Ayashila Gunanvitam Brigayatim Patim Dashyat Yanurupayate Prabhu Jam Ashita Bhakti Namitam Yatim Shimdasyat Upayate Prabhu Asita Bhanghi Namitam Yatim Patim Yanurupayate Prabhu. Anybody else? Anyone? Any other brave souls? Give it a shot. Atmajam, his own daughter, Asita, black, Apangim, eyes, Vayaha, grown up age, Shila, with character. So there's a word Shila, which means character, and there's a word Shila, which means stone. So they're different. So often we pronounce them the same, but this is the word Shila, which means character. Guna, with good qualities. Anvitam, endowed, Mrigayantim, searching for, Patim, a husband, Dasiti, he will give, Anurupaya, who are suitable, Te, unto you, Prabhu, my dear sir. Translation. So Lord Vishnu continues speaking to Kardama Muni. He has a grown-up daughter, this is Manu, whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife. Please repeat. He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage and has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife. So here Vishnu is playing the role of a matchmaker, apparently. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. The selection of a good husband for a good girl was always entrusted to the parents. Here it is clearly stated that Manu and his wife were coming to see Kardama Muni to offer their daughter because the daughter was well qualified and the parents were searching out a similarly qualified man. And this is the duty of the parents. Girls are never thrown into the public street to search out their husband. For when girls are grown up and are searching after a boy, they forget to consider whether the boy they select is actually suitable for them. Out of the urge of sex desire, a girl may accept anyone, but if the husband is chosen by the parents, they can consider who is to be selected and who is not. Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Shri Gonitai ki jai, Giri Govardhan ki jai. According to the Vedic system, therefore, a girl is given over to a suitable boy by the parents. She is never allowed to select her own husband independently. Om Jnana Timurandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunam Lilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachayane Nirvashesha Shunivadi Pastyatyarishtane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, there are different aspects of the Vedic culture that some of which are unfamiliar and unpopular with Westerners, and the topic of arranged marriage is one of those topics. So here on the purport, Srila Prabhupada is showing the wisdom behind arranged marriages. He's making the point that when we're just entering puberty, we become enchanted with the idea of the opposite sex. We may not actually consider whether the person we're attracted to is actually somebody who's good to be a lifelong partner, especially in Krishna consciousness, somebody who will assist us in our spiritual development. We're just attracted by like superficial considerations, whether we think we can have a good time with them now. And so, and of course, that is a potential problem. And then in the Vedic culture, they dealt with that by having the parents choose who the girl would marry. Of course, this wasn't true exactly in every case. There was the case of the Svayamvara ceremony, which is usually when a princess was allowed to choose her own husband, and then there was usually some contest. The prince had to show his valor in some way, and then the girl would choose the most chivalrous of the princes. Of course, there was some of Krishna's wives were selected in Svayamvara ceremonies. Also, the case of Draupadi. But the general case, if you didn't happen to be a princess, as mentioned here, that the parents would choose. So the reason for the different ashrams, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas, is to actually create a situation where we can pursue our spiritual duties peacefully. And people are too much attracted to having the idea of having an intimate relationship with someone from the opposite sex. It's much better that they engage that propensity in Krishna's service by getting married and living together, doing duties together, and bringing up children in Krishna consciousness. If they're very much attached in that way, and they artificially try to lead a life of brahmacharya, then they won't be happy because that attachment is so strong, and which is apparently true in most of the cases. So the vast number of people get married. So it's important that people marry someone who that, for one thing, that they can live together for at least 20 years, at least the duration of time it takes the children to grow up, and that they can live happily together. And if you actually marry somebody who's not compatible with you, rather than it creating a situation which is more peaceful for you, it will create a situation which is less peaceful for you, and you would have been better off staying as a brahmacharya or brahmacharini. For example, suppose you had a brahmana husband and you had a wife who was a lot more materialistic. She would be demanding all kinds of material necessities that her brahmana husband couldn't get from his low-paying job, and he would have to come up with some means of acquiring extra wealth, which would take time out of his sadhana and his service to the Lord. So he wouldn't be very happy about that. And if you were a Brahminically qualified lady and you married somebody who was less Brahminical, then your husband may not be able to inspire you on your spiritual journey, and actually may drag you in a material direction, which also wouldn't be very happy. So the idea of people not being able to discriminate because they're disturbed by sex desire is actually a common idea in the Vedic literature. There's this beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita. Avritam jnanam etena jnanina nityavayana kamarupena konteya dusprena nalenacha. The wise living entity's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So this indicates that so lust doesn't only mean sex desire. It means any kind of selfish desire. Actually, there's a nice verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita which describes the difference in meaning between the words lust and love. It goes, Atmendriya priti vancha bali tare kam krishnendriya priti icha dari premanam. Which means the desire to satisfy one's own senses goes by the name of lust, kama, whereas the desire to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Lord goes by the name of prema, or love. So this lust covers over our spiritual knowledge, and even actually covers over our material knowledge. And in the beginning of these male-female relationships, people become completely infatuated with the opposite sex, and they don't actually consider some of the negative qualities of the person because they're just so overwhelmed with this attraction. Devamrita Swami gave a class a seminar at the Ukraine Festival one year on spiritual and material love, and he quoted from a psychological study where they measured the infatuation period of people in relationships, and apparently it's an average of 17 months. So if you get married within the first 17 months of your relationship, then you may be so infatuated you don't actually consider very nicely whether the person is good for you to marry in the long run. There was an interesting study. This study was done on men, and it would be interesting if the same study could be repeated on women. A girl in a Krsna house mentioned this study in a class she gave. At Krsna house, they allow the different students to give like one class a semester, and they have a different topic, and they have to study and prepare a class. So she had to give a class on are women less intelligent? So she decided to include some evidence about men being less intelligent. So it was interesting though. They have these tests called IQ tests where they ask you to do something or ask certain questions, and depending on your answers to the high IQ test, they give you a number. The higher number, the more intelligent you are. So they asked, they did these IQ tests on these men before and after talking with the beautiful woman. And after they talked with the beautiful woman, their IQ dropped. So I was very excited about this because, of course, it's evidence confirming that verse that lust that covers over one's intelligence. And so, of course, in that case, the man might choose a marriage partner that's not particularly good because of having his intelligence overcome by lust. And it would be interesting if somebody wanted to do a study on ladies and see if they are their intelligence is derailed to the same extent, to a greater extent or a less extent than men. So in this movement, who are full-time devotees, we're following this spiritual path and teaching this spiritual culture. So it's good for us to know why marriages are arranged, so we can explain it to people. So Prabhupada is explaining it to us here. And so those are a few thoughts about this topic. It's not my favorite topic, but it was a topic I was given. But there are some people here who are familiar with this tradition a lot more than me, and also people who've actually been married and come out the other side. And so they have a lot of personal insight in this. So if anybody has any realizations regarding these ideas or intellectual knowledge beyond what I presented, please share it with us now. Or if you have any questions, I will attempt to answer them. But that's the best I can do. I slept 2 hours and 20 minutes. I chanted 16 rounds, went to Mangalarti, and I slept another 2 hours and 20 minutes. Then I studied for 3 minutes. I thought a lot about it during japa, which of course it's always not really the best thing, but so that's what I was able to do. I prayed to the Lord. And do you have any questions, comments, or realizations you'd like to share for the benefit of the audience? Pran Govinda, you were married. I remember you as a brahmachari before you were married. You married the girl who made up the tulsi trays. I remember. She always left one item off, so I became frustrated with her and I made up the trays the day before. Because I like to do the tulsi puja. I still do. I did it twice this week because nobody was assigned to it. I was fired up. I'd polished the tulsi trays for both the men and the women the night before while I was listening to the Bhagavad Gita class. Yeah, then he married this lady and produced a few children, and that I guess wasn't selected by your parents. Was it selected by Badri Narayana Prabhu? Our beloved president. Do you have any insight into it from your experience of being married?
In this case, decision is made by the Lord,
not by the parents.
a particular person or parents.
Right.
Because parents has some motivation, but Lord has a motivation to purify the lust.
Right.
Not produce children only.
Right.
Marriage is not to produce children. Marriage is to purify. And then the child produced, they become Krishna conscious. But to become, I see my both sons, they are my best friend. And they are still chanting, they are still respecting everything, whatever. And materially also they are well settled in a sense. So from that experience I see. But in this case, Kardama Munis, the Lord. So if the brahmachari, if they want to get to that ashram, it's better to depend on the senior devotee who actually has a higher interest, higher expectation from that devotee than devotee himself figuring out his ultimate good. It's always the fact. But we are also individual. We don't want to give up I can figure it out myself. It's very hard. But actually, if we depend on senior devotees, it's the best thing anybody can do, whether it's Mataji or Prabhu's.
It reminds me, I lived in Philadelphia in the middle 80s when I was in my middle 20s, and there's one girl who wanted to marry me, and some people were encouraging me. And then one time, during japa period, 3 different grahastas came up to me and said, I think it would be a really bad idea for you to marry that girl. And because it was like 3 different devotees, I was thinking, this is a sign from Krishna, 3 different devotees during one japa period came up to me. So I told the lady I wasn't interested. And so they actually protected me from having a very complicated life very early on, actually.
I remember asking Jayadutta Maharaj about 1989. 1989, I was talking to Jayadutta Maharaj in LA Ratha Jatra about my situation. He said, when opportunity comes, grab it. Prabhupada said it. I'll never forget that. And then after 30 years almost, I had a talk with Jayadutta Maharaj again about my exit from the ashram. He said, you should just go out, preach.
I thought he would say exactly the same thing. If the opportunity is there, grab it. Grab the opportunity to leave, or grab the opportunity.
Yeah. So it was really great. Now you may say, well, Jayadutta Maharaj was not a householder, how does he know? But I followed because I have a respect for
Right.
it. And it worked very well, and still working.
I met one of your sons at some point. I can't really remember why. I think somebody was picking me up or dropping me off at his shop or something like that. And he was just a very respectful person and very mature person, and it was impressive to me. Just a little brief talk with him, yeah. Mother Akati Sivrata, who's an authority on producing nice devotee children.
I'm an authority on bad marriage, I can tell you about that. So yeah, I mean, for me, this is all perfect. I wish, yeah, I got into my own marriage, just the way that it says here in the purport, I didn't use my intelligence at all. I mean, of course, on the other hand, he was also the person that introduced me to Krishna consciousness. So in that way, it was all wonderful. But our relationship, yes, was pretty bad, and it was and it had its effect obviously on the children as well. So this is something that the problem is now with my daughters, I try to do something like this, but it's really not so easy, in the sense that it's not really part of the culture. It's even as devotees. I mean, some devotees are into it and some are not. So it's challenging. Yeah, and ultimately, someone was telling me, because it's something that it's on my mind a lot, because I have 2 daughters and they're not married. And, but someone told me the other day that, whoever they're meant to be with, that's already set, and for me not to worry about it anymore. So I don't know, because, yeah, I've tried, doing the arranged thing, and it didn't really work out, and it became very awkward also. Yeah, so then, someone told me, that it's already set who they're supposed to marry, or even if they're supposed to marry, so just don't worry about it. So I don't know. Also, another thing was that even the non-devotees are aware that like there's a study that shows that 70% of couples that live together before they get married, that their marriage doesn't work out.
Wow.
So that's pretty high.
Yeah. I guess you can always pray to Krishna that they marry someone who will be beneficial for their Krishna consciousness, and who they can be happy being married to. And because of your devotion, he may well answer your prayer, I always, in my own life, even if things are pretty bad, I always take shelter of the fact that you can always pray. One time, some devotee was having some issue, and Prabhupada told him to go to the deity and say, "My dear sir, this is the problem," and then explain what the problem was, and that Krishna would take care of it. So that was interesting. Any other realizations about this topic that people might benefit by hearing? Yes?
I was thinking what Mother Ekadashi mentioned, because I was studying on this karma one time. The famous verse, of course we know that karma comes from Ketra Gyakya Tatha Para, Avidya Karma Sangyaina. So karma actually comes from avidya.
Right.
The whole idea, karma is not activities, it is the consciousness separately existing from Krishna's interest, where the avidya is the root, a separate interest. So in that sense, yes, prarabdha karma means if you shoot an arrow, the arrow is going to hit the target, but you don't have any more control to change the direction.
Right.
This is what this body is. When we are born with a particular body, it has a pre-programmed, and it cannot be changed. But when they join in Krishna consciousness, things start changing as we become serious and going towards our ultimate goal. So, yes, it is destined for the karmis, but for the devotees, it's changing. Our main purpose, what I feel, some or other, cooperate, encourage, inspire each other to progress, does not matter. Because sometimes devotee may go through nightmare, literally can say, because you can look at 4.2969 in the Purport Prabhupada writes that sometimes devotee comes, they join and then they pray to the Lord, I want to go back home, I want to serve you eternally, I'm sorry, please forgive me, accept me back. So then his karma is like, I was thinking, Prabhupada didn't say that, I was thinking like, okay, Pran Govinda Das wants to have a helicopter, island, marry the princess, whatever, all this. And then now he's saying, I don't want anything, I want to go back home. So Krishna in the heart is like not going to reject everything, but he's going to see how much investment I have. We do invest our emotion, negative and positive. I hate this negative investment. I like this positive investment. So Krishna has a big plan for each devotee. And so point is that whatever happens, it should be encouraged to go on practicing Krishna consciousness. And it's not easy, but we have to try. So predestined is actually changes. Because once you take up Krishna consciousness and more you become serious, literally all things start. But for karmis is easy. I mean, not easy in a sense, but karmi is what they are destined to get, that's all they will get. Another point also in that what is that verse? Avidya karma sang, no, another verse.
From the Bhāgavatam or from the Gita?
No, Prabhupada quote that verse about the karmas. Anyway, the purport of that is that when devotee also, when a soul actually join in Krishna consciousness, that first thing happens that, like an example Baladev Vidyabhushan Thakur gave, that the quiver has all these arrows which will create the future karma and future result. First thing actually those things are destroyed. Yeah. Gyani Gyana Joge Kariya Jatane, this is in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Gyani Gyana Joge Kariya Jatane Brahmera Sakshat Kare, Brahma Sakshatkar Aprarabdha Karma. Aprarabdha Karma means not this body, but what is dormant.
Okay.
Like in the quiver, has all this arrow. So Aprarabdha Karma Sampurna Gyanate Hare. And more they pursue in spiritual path with chanting and acquiring knowledge. That destroy all the future experience, future life. So in the beginning we may not feel too excited in a spiritual connection. We get happiness because it's a relief from the material, but then after that the real operation starts. But then we slow down, hopefully, not slowing down, we should go little faster. Because all the future destination, future karma result, first thing is dissolve. Sampurna gyanete hare. Prarabdha karma kabu nahi khai, phalobuga bina kabu. But the prarabdha karma, what is came with this birth, the devotee, even everybody has to experience through. We should not blame anybody. Whatever happening in my life, I am responsible. I may not remember why it is happening in my life, but somewhere in my previous life I did something. This is, of course, for good reason nobody will call you. For bad reason they will complain. So, but this understanding should be there. Aprarabdha karma. কিন্তু ওহে নাম তপস্ফূর্তি হলে একান্ত জনরে আরো প্রারব্ধ অপ্রারব্ধ কিছু নাহি থাকে বেদে গায় বারো বারো but prarabdha and aprarabdha, everything can be dissolved if we can utter the pure name. So key is, there is a way we can get out of this entire karma cycle if we can somehow or other utter the pure name. How? By chanting constantly and association of advanced devotee who are chanting pure name.
Change begins then when a person starts to practice Krishna consciousness, not just at the time of initiation.
Yeah. Because we also see the example of Prabhupada, the morning walk, where the donkeys, the laundry man was beating the donkey, and Prabhupada said, this is going on. Then I think Madhvija Maharaj stopped. He said, what's going on? He said, last life he was the donkey, and the donkey was the laundry man. So they switched the position. So it will go on. But then he asked, like, how it will stop? He said, Krishna consciousness. So they went and gave a little book. I don't know what happened, but at least that man took it. So at least the cycle will be stopped.
Did they give some prasadam to the donkey? we want to benefit both of us, both of them. So it's interesting that you define karma as action that's done not to please Krishna. Like Krishna defines.
That's what definition is.
Yeah. I always like Krishna's definition because, like everyone, there's zillions of definitions of karma, but no one says what's Krishna's definition of karma, and Krishna defines karma as the action that produces another material body, which is really has the same meaning as what you said. Because if we're doing something that's producing another material body, Krishna doesn't want us to be producing other material bodies, as we very well know. He wants us to go back to Godhead. So yeah, that's how he defines it in verse 8:3. Krishna asks him, "Kim karma? What's karma?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Karmeti, the 7 questions.
Yeah.
This commentary I read from the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commentary on Anna Vilasita Shunyam. Because pure bhakti is covered by karma. So that means karma has to be uncovered. But in uncovering, he was giving the analogy like what is needed, keep it. What you don't need it, trash it. But you have to be aware what you're trashing. So they have to be very careful. That's why we follow great devotee like Prabhupada, then is safer. Otherwise on their own it's difficult to know actually. Because he did not say we reject karma and gyan. Annavilashita shunyam gyana karmadi anabritam. Anabritam means you have to uncover. Uncover doesn't mean you throw it. Uncover means you open it. What is the karma and gyan and what you can use it, keep it, you don't need. Because 3 types of knowledge we keep. Tat padartha gyan, related to Krishna, how Krishna's everything is related in this world material. Then tam padartha gyan, who am I, my relationship with Krishna, my relationship with nature. Then jiva brahma aikya sajujya gyan, the merging idea that the why soul feel loneliness. It's true. Every soul in this material world feel sometime, maybe daily, the loneliness. Loneliness translate as depression. Loneliness translate as frustration. So many things. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives Madhurya Kadambini explained that. And then those knowledge, they will keep it, and the knowledge of merging and all this loneliness, they have to keep it aside. They don't want to use it because it's not anything good for the soul, for Atma. Then this is related to Jnana. Then the karma has a whole tables. Shubha karma, auspicious karma, inauspicious karma. Auspicious karmas are 3 types. Nitya karma, naimittik karma, akarma. Then inauspicious are 2 types, B karma and akarma. So it's like a whole chart. It's very nice, very exciting.
Okay.
Then we fix.
So that's a book that you can get, the commentary of Vishwanath Thakur on the Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay. Another point, you mentioned that idea about when somebody becomes a devotee, that their karma changes. There was one Prabhupada disciple who I met in Germany. I think his name was Nikola Nanda, and he was an astrologer. And he said when he did the charts for the devotees, everything that happened before they became a devotee was very much along the lines of what he calculated. But after, you couldn't really be sure. So he actually saw that in his calculations, The things are definitely different once they became devotees. Yeah. Yes, Maharaj?
It's sometimes said in astrological circles that when a person becomes a devotee, the Vishnu Graha affects their chart, which is an invisible planet. The Supreme Lord is like an invisible planet that mitigates and alters the other karma.
There's another couple of things I thought that were related. Regarding astrology, there's a kind of chart that they call the widow's chart. And if a lady has this chart, it deprecates the condition of the husband. So he becomes more sickly, his duration of life becomes minimized, he has more psychological issues, So the girl I was engaged to had that in her chart, and after dumping me, she went on to marry and divorce 2 other people. So that you definitely don't want to hook up with somebody who has that in your chart. And when I learned that she had that feature in her chart, it made me sad, And then I mentioned it to some senior devotee, and he said, "Well, we're not aspiring to have a long duration of life anyway," which didn't really make things any better, And another thing related to this is when Prabhupada talks about compatibility, he talks about different compatibility issues, and he said that, well, if they're both devotees, then they're compatible. So of course, if they're both like pure devotees, then they're compatible. But not everyone's on that level where their Krishna consciousness is overshadowing their material tendencies. Like if both people in the marriage are more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree, you can see how they could get along nicely together in Krishna consciousness. But if they're not really on that level, then different incompatibilities in their material nature would actually make the relationship not work so well. So you'd actually be more peaceful if you stayed as a brahmachari or brahmacharini than if you actually married somebody who was incompatible. So it's really important. If you learn one thing from this class, you can learn that it's really important to marry somebody who's compatible, whoever chooses them, because then you have a better chance.
I have a question.
Okay.
To you and Maharaj. That verse in the first canto, 2nd chapter, Jad anuddha ashina jukta karma granti nibandhana.
Chindanti kamanas.
One of those famous verses.
Karma granti nibandhanam, chindanti kovidas tasya, koyak katharatim.
Yes.
Yeah.
The question is, bandhana means bind. wrapped.
Okay.
Like with the rope you bind.
Oh, yeah, bind.
Nibandhana is not taking out. Ashina means the sword.
Cutting, yeah.
The sword does not take out. Sword
Cuts,
chop.
yeah.
So when the devotee join, they go through some time, 10 years, 15 years, then they get married or this, that. Then what happened? They have this inclination to enjoy separately, but they will never get the full-fledged enjoyment like karmis. Not that karmis are enjoying so much, but
Right.
the attachment. Because they get Krishna consciousness in between, and their enjoyment is like into pieces now,
Right.
and they really go through tough time. And a lot of devotees go through. What is your advice, or Maharaj or anybody? I mean, this is reality.
Yeah. Well, let's see. That verse goes, let's see. Intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work by remembering the personality of Godhead, who therefore will not listen to his message. Srimad Bhāgavatam 1, 2, 15.
Yes.
1, 2, 15. Yeah.
One of those famous. The whole chapter is famous.
With this Mahavishnu Goswami from Gujarat, he engaged me in memorizing the whole chapter. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I haven't practiced it. I just know the first 22 verses pretty well. But
I heard Prabhupada the time he used to have a separate book. I mean, small book that for devotees.
oh, divinity and
That's what
divine
Pushkar
service,
told me.
really? Wow. It's a beautiful chapter, yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 2 of the first canto. 1, 2, 15.
So it's difficult because they have still some residue, like I want to enjoy, I want to make money, I want to do this, I want to do that. They don't say it, but they go for it, but they never can be like Karmi.
Right.
So actually, it's like a little uncomfortable. So what is your advice?
Well, we have to, the more we absorb our mind in Krishna, the more we'll be satisfied with whatever situation we're in. Because the mind is actually only satisfied when it's fixed on Krishna. So even if you don't have, in whatever circumstance you're in, like if you remember Krishna, you'll be more satisfied. Whether, like here, I'm getting a lot less sleep than I had in Tallahassee, but because I have other devotees to do the morning program with and other people to sing with, I'm a lot happier because I'm, in the association of many devotees who are enthusiastic about Krishna consciousness, even though materially, I'm struggling to somehow or other get 6 hours of sleep every day. But, so even if everything isn't as you wish materially, if you have nice relationships with the devotees, nice service, nice sadhana, you can be satisfied because the satisfaction of the mind has to do with its absorption in Krishna, not with the external situation. We're actually out of time. We managed to fill the whole hour with something, words related to the verse anyway. So shall we end? Does anybody have any last things they want to say before?
Material happiness is impossible. However, happiness is possible.
Yes, okay. That's good enough to put in my blog. So thank you for your attention and staying with me through this struggle of giving this class. And we wish you well in your future marriages, if you have any, and your absorption of your mind in Krishna, whereby which you'll attain permanent satisfaction. It's Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki, Gaur Premanandi. Oh, Krishna. What can be done when you're given a verse like that?
Well, when it
I had to give a class one time on how Kshatriyas are more attractive.
They are.
Prabhupada wrote a purport. I remember I got to give a class on how Lord Vishnu's laughter is captivating. That was the fun. I talked about how you know in that representative.
Difficult to speak something intelligent about it, that you say.
Well, yeah, that I'm not used to speaking about it. You don't have a zillion verses that immediately come to mind. It reminded me how when the Pondraka sent his message to the assembly, telling Krishna to surrender his weapon, and to surrender, and the Pondraka was just telling God how Krishna laughed and the whole assembly laughed. You know? I was trying to
I remember.
find different places where the literature where Krishna's captivating laughter was mentioned. It's one that came to mind.
Krishna's answer was a bully. It was really bully answer.
Yeah.
You generally don't think Krishna answered like that, but he did.
Yeah.
In that case.
Yeah.
He said he will send him to jail. Hell, Chamalai.
Right.
Krishna generally don't. That's nice.
Yeah, for the rascals, Krishna, presents himself as a, supreme rascal, chastised. You sinful frog, right? He called somebody a sinful frog. Was it Kalayava or something? Somebody. So you give class on Srivasa Thakur's appearance. You know that's also the disappearance day of Srila Swami, our Srila Swami.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He disappeared on Srivasa Thakur's appearance. So if you look at the calendar, and it was interesting. It was interesting how he was mentioned in connection with Kadambakana Swami yesterday, because he was the Jolly Swami, and people also saw Kadambakana. So they saw Kadambakana Swami as also very much a Jolly Swami, that he was very jovial.
Siddha Swami from Vancouver.
Yeah.
Because I met his cousin.
Really?
Yeah, in Vancouver.
Really?
2 years back.
Really?
Yeah. Jolly Swami.
Actually, he played a couple of key roles in my life. Because I was working with Adikesha on this computer business, and I wasn't very happy, and I revealed my mind to Sridhar Swami. And said, yeah, you should do something else. Prabhupada said a brahmachari should stick with one engagement too long. And so he was like, and then...
Wait, what was it?
He said that stick with one engagement too long. I'd been there like 6 years, and I was tired of it. I saw if I stayed in that situation, I'd get married and support my family writing accounting software, and that's not why I joined the Hare Krishna movement. And then when I was engaged to that lady who was incompatible with me, he said, yeah, you should marry one of those like Indian ladies or Hispanic ladies who's trained by culture to be submissive. And she was such a, I was so dissatisfied with her behavior, I decided just to tell her that, although I knew it would make her upset. And then she dumped me, so I didn't have to worry about it anymore. So he got me out of one job I didn't like, and he got me out of one engagement. He just happened to be instrumental, And then I went to Mumbai. I'd never been to Mumbai before, and I didn't know where the brahmachari ashram was or whether I should stay in the hotel. I didn't know anything. And so I said, where should I stay? And he said, well, there's a room right next to mine. You can stay there, So I stayed in this room, and like 2 days later, Kavi Chandra Swami moves in, and it turns out it was a sannyasi guest room, He just put me there because, he was in a friendly mood, Very nice, very amazing person, very super friendly, encouraging. Yeah, so you have some nice interactions with Sridhar Swami?
Some,
Yeah.
not so much. Some.
When he was staying here, he was staying actually in the room, the very room that I stayed in.
Really?
And that before I was staying in this temple, I used to come to New York. Whenever I would see him, he always had the same gratuity. That was one of the things he always said. And he would always be the person that would stop or end the Rath Yatra in New York.
Yeah.
And he would get up on the stage and
Right.
say, well, it's time for the big demon, Sridhar Swami, to stop the Rath Yatra. So all of you must now help break down because we need to clear out the park by, certain
Yeah.
time.
Kalakanta Prabhu said that he asked Sridhar Swami the day before he left this world, can you give me a final instruction? And Sridhar